Well, Marco Vicenzino is the director of the Global Strategy Project, a geopolitical risk and international business advisory firm. Joins me now from New York. Good to have you live with us on Al Jazeera. When something like this happens in a country that's as unique as Cuba, people tend to think of the future in two terms. One, socially, and second, economically. What do you think is or is not going to change in the short and long term?
Well, I think when Raul Castro took over in 2008, there was a bit of an economic opening, but that economic opening was limited to preserve the status quo and the regime. Politically, there's really been no opening. So in that sense, I think Castro's death, the death of Fidel Castro, is highly symbolic, but within the context of the geopolitical context of the region, it's somewhat irrelevant. What I mean by that is the fact that the Castro revolution has been taken by an historic evolution in Latin America of political progress, economic progress, and another thing is the fact that, you know, Cuba is it's caught in the past. And what I mean by that is that while the rest of the region has made progress, Cuba has remained caught in an autocratic past. And in that sense, if there is any opening in Cuba, it's going to generally, at least for the foreseeable future, at least remain in the economic, unless there's only one exception, unless Raul Castro has a transformation, a real change of mind, and he decides to do so. Unless that happens, there's going to be continuity.
Yeah, let me bring in Raul Castro, because I think this is a really interesting equation here. You just mentioned the fact that, you know, Cuba hasn't developed as quickly as the rest of the Americas and Central America, partly because, can I put it to you, that while Fidel Castro was still alive, Raul Castro still looked over his shoulder. Now that Fidel's gone, how does this change the political landscape for Raul, particularly within Cuba itself? And he has a lot to catch up on if he's trying to perhaps get as advanced as some of the other South American, Latin American countries have been over the last 50 years.
I mean, there's been a theory that all along that Raul had to wait for the death of Fidel to move forward. That remains a theory. And like I said previously, unless there's a real change of mind on the part of Raul, continuity will continue. And just look at the rest of Latin America. You have, you know, an increased strengthening of the institutions of civil society, greater civic participation. You look at a place like Guatemala, whereby an attorney general brought down an entire government. You have people like Sergio Moro in Brazil on the front lines of bringing down an entire political and business establishment. That's real progress. That's historic progress. That's what's lacking in Cuba right now. If Raul is really looking at the rest of the region and says that we're behind the curve and wants to move forward, I think most people in the region, most governments in the region and within the United States will be ready to engage Cuba in a much more constructive fashion.
Well, it's only been less than 24 hours since the death of Fidel Castro. We will have to wait and see, I think, some time to see what Raul Castro does. For the moment, Mario Vicenzino, thanks so much for joining us from New York.
Thank you.